All right. Well, I want to tell a tale of two code bases, something I'm working on right now with ClickBid, and goes back a couple of years. I did a project for, let's see, I'm just going to click on, oh, I need to go to my Cognito here. Um, I did a project for a nonprofit that had different locations spread out around the country, and we wanted to bring them all together with live streaming, and they were different restaurants where they would do different bands in, I think, 5 or 6 different states around the US. And then I was going to build a tech that would use a relationship with Dolby to stream them and allow me from West Michigan to switch between the 6 or whatever. And so I also had a live feed in my office with a host, and then they were going to bring all 5 of those organizations together. So that way, a national organization without any real centralized location could do an event technically all over the country. And all they had to do was book bands to fill specific venues, and we just kind of made it work across the time zone. So I wrote this application by hand 2 years ago over the course of a summer. Honestly, I couldn't tell you how long it took, but I had these 3 directories called Stream, Director, and Broadcast. So Stream was the actual viewer application. Looking at the code base here, I mean, if you're a PHP developer, you're gonna see that this is about as fun, basic as it can possibly get. And really, what this looked like visually was the stream on one side, and then a chat on the right hand side, and then the ability to send, reactions. You can see here some different reactions. And so, there was some, JavaScript. What I also used in here was I used a service called Ably, and that is a pub sub service that let me send notices back and forth, because when I switched a channel, so let's say I had 6 feeds going at once and I was looking them on my device, my laptop, and I wanted to switch between any one of the active feeds, I would actually have to send a WebSocket to anybody that was connected to the broadcast. And so I used Ably, here you can see, to make that possible. And so, I won't go through all the actual code, but you can see here, this is all, the stuff I added, copy and paste, and some of this stuff to just shut up VS Code. I think it was no, I think I used Cloud9 maybe. I don't remember what I used for the IDE, but yeah, I mean this was all look for it and find it on um, Stack Overflow tutorials from Ably's website, Millicast, which is owned by Dolby, and then it's a pretty basic functionality. Um, just different functions here. And then there were 2 other directories, Director, which was the product that I would actually use to um, uh, switch. So as the director, I would see all these feeds come in. So I would share a broadcast link, this broadcast link here. I would share this to any individual that I wanted to start streaming, and then they would stream it back to me. So I actually sent web cameras, laptops, microphones to all of these different venues to, if we just wanted to set up a camera and a microphone just to pick up the sound in the room, we could. That was not a good idea. In hindsight, it would have been much smarter to just, coordinate with every AV company, something I would do differently today. But anyway, so, again, you can see some really basic kind of elementary PHP here, nothing, not even object oriented, just, yeah. And then, bringing in some of the SDKs. And then, again, without digging too far into it, it was basically a grid based system where you would have these different cameras, and then you could switch between the cameras and so on. And yeah, so the last one was the broadcast. This was the code that I could actually email to people. And then they would actually, from their device, they would fire up a web browser or a web browser. It would activate a camera, it would activate a microphone, and then you would send that back to me in the director, and I could switch between them. And so, again, we had, I used a MySQL database to make all this come together and to stay, so you could do different feeds and different streams and so on. And And then you could also see a live feed. Now, so let's fast forward. So this is done. Now, one thing actually I want to show here is this README file. I was in a hurry. This was just for me. So this is my README, a broadcast tool for ClickBit users, set up multiple feeds, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was like you look at some of my initial commits, deleted or completed PHP update. I mean, my commit messages, there's 26 commits here and so on. And so, nothing, I mean, you wouldn't even be able to follow what I did, really. I mean, some really basic text, because I was in a hurry, and frankly, this wasn't for really anybody but me. It's a private project. So, all right, so sorry. Now, fast forward to, the age of AI with Claude, with Gemini, with, ChatGPT. I mean, even this week, within the last 7 days, each one of those companies have released a massive update on their models, and they're scoring really well on software SWE bench, and it is quite good. Now you got a quick peek at my code. I'm gonna go ahead and close this, and then now I have this new code, because what I wanted to do was I realized that the service we're using, the old code was using Millicast for live streaming, real-time WebRTC. It was using Ably for PubSub, WebSocket communications. What else was it using? Oh, I was using Dead Simple Chat, which is a really low cost, very no frills chat service, but it's really great. It's got a decent API, and it's just easy, low cost. Everything has to be low cost for nonprofits. So there's, these different services that I have all plugged into this one functionality. And I had a conversation with some folks at AWS, and they said, if you want this all to live underneath your VPC, you could just use some of the new tech. Well, 2 years ago, I mean, I'm going to say I didn't see it, but I didn't see that they had a WebRTC solution. They maybe did, but like many things at AWS, if you've ever looked at their service offering, it is massive. It's like walking into a Best Buy, when you're trying to pick products to use on AWS. And so before, I would have just given up. That's really something I've picked up in AI is, projects that I've started and done with agentic coding are projects that I never could have picked up before. I'm good enough at programming to get certain things done. I like to say I'm good enough to know where to find what I'm looking for on Stack Overflow and use it in my projects. But I'm not good enough to just sit down in an IDE, start from scratch, and start building. However, Claude is good at that, and good enough, certainly better than me. So what I did was I took the code base, downloaded it to my computer, put it up in a directory, and then I loaded up. Actually, this was kind of an experiment I did because I, who was it? Gemini came out with anti-gravity. So let me load up anti-gravity, see if it pops it in. And so what I did was I loaded anti-gravity. I opened my folder, and to projects, event stream, and then I downloaded my repo and I put it in here, and I just popped open the folder. And I said, okay, again, if AI, this was when I was experimenting with what do you call it? Gemini 3, because it was supposed to be the best. I mean, this was like during that 45-hour window where ChatGPT 5.1 Codex hadn't come out yet. So I was like, okay, you're going to be my agentic coder. I'm not going to touch a line of code. So I got rid of the file line, the file folders, and I just said, listen, I chose Gemini 3 Pro High, and I said, I want you to explore this repository, and I want you to take a look at the Amazon Web Services offering of IVS. And because I had done some homework up before that, and this is important too. I mean, I don't just sit down and go, let's do this cool project. I mean, there's a lot of research. There's a lot of things that I take for granted that I do that is just fun for me. So I just assume everybody does it. But it is important to mention, I'm on IVS's website within AWS, and looking at their products, their sample projects, looking at some of their code bases, their APIs, endpoints, and functions and all that to see what's available. So I can read the code and the platforms well enough to know that this is going to solve a problem, and it's not like 15 miles away. It's within reach. And so I said to Claude or Gemini, I said, I want you to look at this existing repo. It uses Ably, Millicast, Dead Simple Chat, and I want you to reimagine this product inside of AWS's product offering, specifically the IVS service where I can get real-time broadcasting. So it got to work and it started building. And of course, within about 15 minutes, I ran out of tokens. So then I went to Sonnet 4.5, ran out of tokens, and I said, okay, so I think anti-gravity is cool. Now, not something I recommend, but I like to work in YOLO mode because I've been using Claude since it came out back in May or whatever. And it's just so nice. I've never been a real command line guy, but this thing, I don't know, for whatever reason, it stuck, and I really like Claude Code. But with Gemini 3 coming out, I thought, great, now, when is, I'm still in the old school of, when somebody releases a platform, it's going to be months before they do something else. But in AI world, it's like days. So Gemini 3 came out, and I thought, well, we're users of Google products and the Google Workplace and some or Space or whatever. So I'm like, well, let's just check this out, and it is cool. Gemini 3 is amazing. It's really intuitive. The CLI functions almost exactly like Claude Code, and it's great. I love it. But then, of course, ChatGPT and Claude, now it's Claude 4.5 or Opus. So it's like, okay, so they're all really good. So once I ran out of tokens in anti-gravity, I can't quite figure out yet how to get it to use my account. I don't know why, but anyway, I use VS Code all the time now. So the way this works is it took my directories. Now some of this you might seem familiar. Stream, director, broadcast. Those are all. You saw those in the previous repo. There's a start server script that starts servers locally on my computer. You can see localhost 80, 80, 02, 03, and 01. And then I'm using Tunnel, CloudFlare Tunnel. And then I had it create a Git repo, a new one. And then, if you've used Claude, you can, there's definitely Claude files. This does not look like it's been updated in a while. Something that does bug me is they say Claude gets updated as you work, but I don't think it does. I think you actually have to stop and say, please update Claude with the latest information, because if you if you take a break from the vacation from the project and then come back to it a couple weeks later, just like Claude doesn't really remember what you worked on, and I don't remember what I worked on, so one of us has to. So that's nice to have before you walk away from a project. Just have Claude go back and rebuild the Claude MD and the README file. Now, README, this is going to be a lot better. There's a lot here, obviously, and this is something I really like about AI tools is they are really good at documentation, at Git commits, and so on. Because if you remember how that README file on my repo was like one sentence, if I go here, so here's event stream, AWS migration. So this is a migration from Dolby and all that to AWS, the IVS chat, and AppSync. And so it really, look at what it gives you. This is all, like if I were to hand this over to one of my devs who actually knows what they're reading, they're going to look at this and go, oh, wow, okay, cool. This gives me a really good start. Oh, and I use SendGrid for email. But anyway, so yeah, look at how much detail there is here. And then when you look at a commit, I've got 8 commits on this. And if I look at my commits, let's say, let's Lambda functions. So, these instructions are like, what did it do? This is what it did. That's really helpful. And that's actually not that much documentation. So if I did, complete migration, it's probably going to give me some information here. Why is it taking so long? Well, anyway, good. If I mouse over it, yeah, here we go. Now, Yeah, it's not giving me a great detail. Let me just mouse over. Where did I just see that? Oh, maybe it was, no. All right, here we go. Gee whiz. Why it took so long. It creates all this content for you so that way you can, you don't have to write all this. Like, what did you do? Put it in a git commit and push it. You can probably hear my dog. She is just working up a sweat right now. Um, anyway, so these are two things that I really enjoy about AI coding is that it's really good at writing commit messages, and it's really good at README files. And you can just tell it, hey, can you update the README file to make sure it's current with with what I have, and it does. It does a really good job of that. But anyway, let's go back to the code. Now, the way I use VS Code is I keep my I don't know I keep my Explorer open. You don't really have to, but then I always have my Claude Code down here. So I just open up a terminal, jump into the directory, and I go into my YOLO mode, which will basically do stuff. I could just walk away for 5 minutes and it'll code. Now people talk about how yes, it can delete a lot of files. That's what GitHub's for. I have not had a situation where Claude has said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to start deleting stuff off of Matt's Mac. Technically, if it completely deep sixed my computer, I could just rebuild it and start over. I haven't been too worried about it, but you can set up commands that it won't, like RM, um, so you can't do that. It won't. It requires permission to do that. So what I like about YOLO is I can give it some instructions and it can get started. So if I go all the way back up to the top here, um, well, this was interesting. So I've got a CF tunnel or tunnel D from Cloudflare, so that I can connect an actual domain name. I can register, I can host it or park it at Cloudflare, and then I can point it to my local computer. So that way, when I run a terminal command, let me get I get my Cloudflare running, it'll actually create a tunnel to my computer so that I can access it like any other website, which is nice for local development. I really enjoy that. Plus, if I want to kill it, I can just stop it, and then now it's been disconnected, but then power it back up, and now I'm back up and running. And so now clickbit.tv is actually connected to my local device no matter where I am. So pretty cool. I didn't see, and this is it, I didn't know this existed. And so what I basically did was I asked Claude to help me. I said, hey man, how do I let people see this thing, even though it's on my computer? I knew enough as a developer that there were services out there that you could use. The thought of trying to go back into Stack Overflow or Server Overflow and try to do the research and figure out which one it was that because I had used it a long time ago, I just couldn't remember what it was. It was able to bring that to me and say, hey, this is what it is. Now, is that cheating? No, because I don't remember it. The truth is, I don't remember it anyway. So at this moment, I don't remember what I did to get my terminal connected to the web with a publicly accessible domain name. So whether I use AI or I use Google search, I still don't know the answer, and I'm going to go find it. And this case, I'm sitting at my terminal. I don't have to leave my terminal, and I can just ask. I don't have to jump over to Chrome, get lost, get distracted by news or anything. I can just stay engaged, and I can get the answer I'm looking for. So that has been amazing. And so now, one of the things looks like, Claude had a little bit of an error. I'm subscribed. You definitely got to get subscribed to the status updates for like ChatGPT, or OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, because man, they go down a lot. Like they're always running on the bleeding edge of capabilities. So it went down for a little while. I had to wait like half an hour. So anyway, so I find this is how I communicate. I said a couple things that we have to fix. So it was going through and replacing it. Again, I have to remember where I'm at because I'm all over the place. But I went, I was using Claude and it was rewriting this whole thing. So let's take a look. And then this was a prompt that I ended up running into issues. So let's keep that there. And then let's take a look at stream. Now remember, it was a PHP file. And let's take a look here. So, some base, again, a lot of this, in this case, it's loading scripts from, then this is, GSAP, TweenMax. Actually, this is all old stuff. I'm not even using GSAP right now to do animations and stuff. We'll get to it. But Yeah, it's all the, it is, Claude did put a bunch of media queries in here, CSS. So there's a lot of that. And then you can see here, it's basic HTML. Something that I remember back in the days of Microsoft is when I used this program called Front Page. This is how old I am. Front Page or Dreamweaver. Microsoft was the worst. Is that if you took a page from Microsoft Word, like a client would give you, this is what I want on my website, and you wanted to just copy it and paste it into a HTML document, it was an absolute train wreck. Like you would have divs and BRs and MBSPs, it would be everywhere and it would look like just an absolute mess. And that's kind of what I expected when Claude and OpenAI started doing agentic coding, is that it would just end up like throwing the kitchen sink at all of these things. And yes, in the very earliest of days, it did some really weird stuff. Like ChatGPT would set a variable and like reset it in the next line, which made no sense. I haven't seen something like that in months. Now, once in a while, yep, it doesn't do something I ask it to do, but okay, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for assistance. And I know if you looked at my old code, it wasn't that great. It was okay, but it wasn't like hanging on a wall great. So this is the same thing. If I look at my JS files, I have a stream file, and again, it's a big file and it's got a lot of functions, but I can read this. I mean, got a join function, stage. Now, IVS at AWS, a lot of three-letter abbreviations. They use a term called stages. In I think Millicast uses streams, publish tokens, that kind of stuff. So you just have to get used to the new nomenclature. But yeah, I mean, it's really, it's very much the same. You've got a lot of these, switching elements, DOM elements on and off. And, if you just kind of scroll through it, here we go, boom, init. I can follow this up to, the init function and walk through it. And it's not crazy. Like it's not, it doesn't look like it's been minified by anything that Anthropic has done to it. Same with CSS. It's only putting in what it needs to. Could I go through and clean this up? Maybe. I could probably ask Claude to do it, or I could go to Gemini 3 and say, hey, can you take a look at the code that Gemini or Claude built and try to clean it up? Maybe a little bit weird that you're asking another AI to clean up another AI's work, but still, you could get second opinions. And the same thing with Director. It rewrote all of this. Now, as for this experiment, I didn't touch a line of code. I wanted to just let it go and treat it like a pair programmer where it did all the work and I was directing from prompt and from ideation and so on. And so, yeah, I mean, it built this really cool thing. And then it under broadcast and so on. And I can't show you what it used to look like on my old platform, but today, this is what it looks like. So if I go to director, click bit.tv, and then I load it. Now it's going to get a double camera. And it wants me to connect. I've got go live. I've got a live preview over here. This is all Claude-driven UI. Now I did ask it to, I had to look at this and, there were some styling issues. And then, I would go into the inspect terminal and I spent probably a good couple hours, trying to say, hey, this isn't right. There's not enough padding here. This doesn't look good. This connect button, hey, listen, we got to rethink the way this works. The go live needs to be green or red or what, The email tool is a modal where I can email this to anybody I want. So that way now, Bob can join the live broadcast if I send him this link. And then when he joins, he'll pop up, right here. So if I just wanted to broadcast my device, whatever computer, today what ClickBit does is it lets me connect, let's see, let's connect. And so I can connect the local device and then I can start going live. And within a few seconds, it'll recognize that there's an active stream and then it'll pop it up here. Okay, fine, maybe a little bit more than a few seconds, but, and it might be messing up because I'm using my camera for this webinar. So anyway, and then now IVS also handles, chat messages. So I can do side-by-side chat. And if I want to go to stream and I want to watch the broadcast, Again, it's not going to work because, yeah, I can also chat. Hey there. And there's some nuances. You'll notice that it's got some weird user IDs that I'm going to want to change, and the chat is not persistent. Oops, let me go back to the director. It's persistent here if you've loaded the chat, but it's not persistent. Um, if you leave it and come back. So there's things that I need to ask for, but this is really, really good. And so I'm using it again as a pair programmer. I don't have to write the code, but I do, obviously have to use it, and I have to make sure it's working. And for instance, just making sure, I'll have to go back and make sure that there isn't some bug here. But, I can look at the again, I know enough to go to the console, and I can tell. One of the things I do is I tell Claude, listen, do comments. I need to see activity of stuff's going, and it gives me, if people do things and enter and exit the stage, I can, I can see that happening. So I can see, and it reports errors and so on. One of the things I also like about Claude is that I can tell it to go look at the logs on AWS using the AWS CLI, and it'll just start looking at logs for me. I don't need to know or remember what commands to type out. Now, is that super helpful for somebody who does remember all of the commands to type out because that's what they do all day, every day? I can't answer that. But for me, this helps me get back into the game a little bit better because I have the intelligence to ask this kind of question. So, for instance, it asked me a question about would you like me to adjust the subdomains or any other configuration for this? What we did, and I said nope. But there are a couple things to fix. First, when there are more than one broadcaster, the first broadcaster needs an active go live button in addition to the stop broadcast button. Second, so I'm being very specific and clear. Can you make the additional broadcast button say go live active? When I click the go live on any broadcaster, it should make that feed active. And then it did all this. Fourth, on the broadcast page, the live preview does not play in the feed at all. It is missing an ID parameter, something going on. So then it starts chewing through these and starts adding, and it shows me what it removes, shows me what it adds. And again, through the terminal, it's really nice because I can, go through it and say, oh, look what you did. And I don't have to guess or worry. And these were really, looks like it had the wrong source ID. It wasn't passing the right parameter, and then it actually modified these to show, instead of source ID, actual source ID. Now, do I like the word actual source ID? No, I don't. But I guess I could go in and on line 239 go change it to something that feels better, but whatever, don't have to. And then I can ask it to merge and push to GitHub, which is awesome. I love it because it does all this stuff that I don't have to do, and maybe because I've been doing this for 23 years that I'm like, I don't need to do it. I don't feel bad that I'm asking Claude to do some work for me. And so it's just handling it. Now I noticed here we had a problem where I said, well, we need to rethink the way that this system works. What we need is broadcasters to connect to a stage, because what was happening was under the director, if I wanted to make the director active, then that actually started the broadcast. So I needed a separate go broadcast, meaning if you think of this like a Zoom call, connecting, going through this connect process connects me to the Zoom call where everybody else is connected. But I don't actually start broadcasting until I press go live. And when I go live, now I'm actually choosing which feed I want people to watch. It's not like a Zoom call in that it puts all 6 of them on the screen at once. I actually am sending people like a TV director, saying, okay, I want you to load up camera 6. Now let's go to camera 6. All right, now let's load up camera 4. Let's go to camera 4. That's what you're basically doing here. Can we add features? Yeah, we can add features where you can do split screen, tri-screen, and so on. And the crazy thing is, I get to put myself in the seat of, how is this going to be crazy simple? If I'm a nonprofit and I'm jumping in on this on a Saturday night, how do I make this easy so that I don't feel like, well, I'm not doing it because it's too hard? So again, I keep this broadcaster and I just say, pick your camera and hit connect. So let's just go back here. I think, yeah. So I just connected, and then if I'm ready, go live. And then this thing is set to just keep checking for an active stream. And when it's active, it'll cut over. Maybe it will. I don't know. Is it going to share my camera this time? No, it's still going to give me guff. So it's either a bug or it's the fact that I'm using the camera for two things. But yeah, I really like being in this position and telling the agentic code writer in Claude to say, okay, now what I want you, now what I want you to do is, okay, yeah, now I want you to review all your changes and update date. Yeah, it doesn't even have to be spelled right. Update Claude MD to be more current with the code we've written. Okay, so a couple things. I'm going to hit enter and then it's going to get started. And let me take this. What I could do, stop it. Okay, and then I can copy it. If I wanted to, if I felt like my prompts were really too, simplistic, or I was running into a problem where I was asking Claude to do something, and then when it says it's done, it's not actually done. It doesn't seem to work. What I could do is I can take this and I can go to Claude AI, and then I can, Love Opus 4.5. I can say, hey, this prompt isn't working with my repo updates. Can you make it more relevant for CC? And then I do that. And what it'll do is it'll think about it and give me a better prompt. And then, the prompt is a bit vague. Okay, so if you want, now I can say review git log for recent. Oh, I forgot about that. So yeah, I can actually give it more of these prompts. And then, okay, scan the code base structure, review key files, and update Claude accurately, blah, blah, blah. So if you get stuck, you can go into Claude and ask it to give itself a better prompt. And if you're using MCPs or connectors in Claude, the desktop, I can actually add from GitHub. So I can take the repo that I've been working on and add it and say, okay, can you update this? And so it's pretty incredible. And so it looks like it did it. And so, yeah, it added. Now, remember how the Claude MD was, okay, can you commit and push to GH? Okay. So now it's going to commit it and push it. And then I'm going to go back to, so let's go. Okay, this is what it was if it loads it quick enough. Did it just do it? No, so this is yesterday. So this is my Claude MD file. Not very long, pretty basic. And it's not terrible, but when it's done, if I hit refresh, did it do it? Okay, yep. So it just finished pushing it. And now it's a heck of a lot better. And I didn't have to go through it all. And now it's really quite helpful for the Claude MD file. And this is what Claude would use to build into build future product. And this is good. Sometimes I've seen Claude say, this is what we worked on, this is what we're working on next. It seems like the Claude Code has gotten better at doing less verbose and being more specific. So I think that's a nice update. I can't say that for sure, but it's definitely a lot cleaner than when I used to see some some Claude MD files. They were just massive, and it felt like they were too context heavy, and it would throw off the product or the Claude Code when you're building different product. Anyway, so all right. Well, hopefully this was helpful. It's a lot. I kind of covered a lot of ground here, but this is stuff I'm just really excited about and how AI is helping us write. Now, remember, I'm still in the driver's seat. Maybe if I'm only convincing myself that, but AI is doing a lot of the work. And it's writing a lot of the code. But again, I get to go through this and I can say, okay, so I just did a commit and so let's, fix UI buttons and preview. I can look at, the code, the files that were changed. So I added these. That was good. Hostname server. This was a YAML file for CloudFlare D. And then, these are some of the changes that were made. So I can look to make sure, as if I was looking at a pull request, okay, it's not adding malicious code or unsecure code. And I can even ask it to go through a security audit for OWASP Top 10. and it'll do that. So it's, yeah, it's pretty remarkable what Claude can do these days. Anyway, I could go on forever, but I hope this is helpful.